All right, so welcome to the March NPU-Y monthly meeting. My name is Nicole Weisswasser, and I'm your NPU chair. I just want to thank you for coming out. If there is anything that you ever need from your leadership in NPU-Y, please email us, secretarynpuy@gmail.com. We are always here to assist you. A few housekeeping rules just to get started. Please stay muted. If you would like to speak, please use the raised hand reaction and you will be called to the floor. You may also use the nonverbal reactions on the bottom of the screen, and that was a great way to express without actually taking the floor. If you are on a cell phone, please use *9 to raise your hand and *6 to mute and unmute yourself. And if you are a city official or a city representative, please put your information in the chat so we can call on you when we get to that section of the agenda. For the minutes, approval of the minutes, after review of Robert's Rules of Order, there is no motion that needs to go through to approve the minutes. Since there are no corrections to the minutes, are there any oppositions? As I hear none, we move forward to the approval of the agenda.
Madam Chair, are we able to scroll through it so folks can see it? It's not being shown entirely on the agenda.
My apologies.
Motion to approve, Rebecca.
Do I have a second?
Gloria, second.
Thank you. Do I have any in opposition to the approval of the agenda? All right, as I hear none, we will move forward to our reports with city department representatives. I will call on your city representatives based on the name in the chat. Please keep your comments to 2 minutes or less. If you have questions for the city representatives that do not pertain to the general body, please leave them in the chat and we will direct them to the representative after the meeting if they are not answered during the meeting. First up, I have Captain Pettis with Atlanta Police Zone 3. You have the floor.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. I am going to report on the crime in February as compared to the crime in January. We had 0 homicides in February compared to 1 in January. In the aggravated assault category, we had 4 in February compared to 7 in January. We had 0 burglaries in February compared to 1 in January. That was robberies, my mistake. The next category is burglary. We had 6 in February compared to 4 in January. In the auto theft category, we had 9 in February as compared to 13 in January. And in the larceny from auto category, 12 in February compared to 7 in January. And the last category is all other larcenies. We had 4 in February compared to 3 in January, with a total part 1 count of 35 in February compared to 37 in January. And that is the end of my report.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Captain Pettis? I see 1 hand raised. Gloria, you have the floor. Gloria, you're muted.
Captain Pettis, just as we met last month or Lakewood meeting, there was 1 homicide at the 1660 location. Is that not correct?
There was a person killed. However, that is a justifiable killing, so it doesn't count toward the homicide number. So yes, there was a person shot and killed, but the person who did the shooting was acting in self-defense, so it doesn't count as a homicide.
But it occurred in plain view at 1660, is that correct?
That's true, yeah, in the parking lot.
Okay. Well, I think, I know how you all do your data, but I think for the citizens, they'd like to know that there was a homicide in that parking lot. It just kind of goes to, the feeling of what we need to do. Could you further explain loitering and how much of what is being said is this is attributable to loitering? Major Ricker laid out a few how we would deal with loitering. Apparently, it's speaking to the. Can you tell us how that works in a 24/7 location?
It's pretty much impossible without the business owner making the complaint, in which case it wouldn't be loitering at all. It would be trespassing. So I had a conversation with an attorney in the Fulton County Magistrate's office, particularly concerning loitering at any time of the day. Now, it'd be easier to meet the requirements for the statute if the business were closed at night, but because that Little Bear is open 24/7, the actual business has to make a complaint. And in that case, because the business is open, it would be criminal trespass as opposed to loitering. That's pretty much the best explanation I can give you as to why we just can't go around enforcing loitering on businesses that are open. It's up to the business to make that complaint, not us.
Lastly, my understanding at 1660, there was.
Gloria, your time is exhausted.
Well, I think Rebecca had asked Nicole if in conjunction with the police report, I could bring up things that I thought were most important to the community.
Okay, well, Jimmy has his hand raised too.
And lastly, the issue was 1660, my understanding there was a traffic stop that I did not hear, whereby the individual fled through Gould area, but there were a substantial amount of drugs and guns found, and that was just on Tuesday or last week. Is that correct?
It could be. I don't have those notes in front of me. I'm sorry, I don't know that.
Okay. All right, there you are.
Thank you. Jimmy, you have the floor.
Hey, good evening, Captain Pettis. Hopefully this is the right time and place for this information, but or this request. We still have issues of parked tractor trailers tractors and or trailers at the Lakewood, where Lakewood and 166 intersect. Right where the salt tent is. Are you familiar with the area I'm speaking of?
I am, and our quality of life officer actually had a conversation with a GDOT official who was supposed to get more signs posted out there for no parking. But obviously it's not being adhered to, at least.
Yeah, I was directed to GSP the last time that I brought this up. I actually called GSP and they directed me back to APD. So is that you guys' jurisdiction, or you guys issue to handle, or is it GSP's?
I would think that it would be the Georgia State Patrol, even though we normally handle it.
Okay.
That's a follow up on. We've got great relationships with them. Can you please send me an email and I will give you tomorrow once I figure it out.
Okay, and is your information in the chat?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I will. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right.
Thank you, Jimmy. I have Gloria's hand raised again.
Yes, thanks, Nicole. Captain Pettis, much of the community appeared at a code enforcement hearing on 1686. The judge issued a bench warrant for Mr., I think his name, Roy Bijwajit. Do you know if it was ever executed?
What was it in reference to?
It was a code enforcement issue whereby he had come to court several times and refused and sent a representative. Judge Porter said the last time that he needed to come, he did not show. 5 community members showed, and the judge issued a bench warrant. And we would like to be present when that bench warrant is litigated.
We actually arrested him last week.
Oh, great.
We went to his house and got him.
Great. So we will be apprised of the court date?
I can check on that. I don't know if that's the way it normally works, but since you guys are members of the community and you offer testimony, is what you're saying?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Okay. And the last question, Nicole, was there were paddy wagons on Gould Street. Folks were asking if that was just proactive deterrence or if there was a bust of some sort on Gould Street last week. Do you know the answer to that, Captain Pettis?
No, I'm sorry.
Okay. No worries. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. Are there any other questions for Captain Pettis from the general body? All right. Thank you so much for your work in our community and keeping us safe.
Thank you. I'll follow up with those by email.
Thank you. I now call Anthony Dobson. You have the floor.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I am Anthony Dobson, Battalion Chief, Battalion 1 at Station 2 right here on Lakewood. They just want to bring a couple of things. Our smoke alarm program is doing very well. If you guys need a smoke alarm or CO detectors, I can give you a phone number to get in contact with Miss Claudia Nash. She's also in this meeting also. And we actually will set a schedule out and come out and put those up for you inside your home. We are very active in our car seat program still also. Also the apparatus request, if you need an apparatus request for some type of event, I can give you that number also. And in 2 weeks, we're going to be starting our hydrant inspections. So you're going to see us out turning on hydrants and flushing hydrants and painting hydrants, just to give you a heads up. So that will start the second week of April. Other than that, if you guys have anything for me, I am complete with mine.
All right. Any questions for Anthony Dobson from the general body? All right. As I see no hands raised, thank you so much, Anthony, for joining.
Thank you guys for having me. You guys have a great evening.
You too. I now call to the floor Officer Lawrence with the City of Atlanta Department of Public Works.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Officer Lawrence with the Department of Public Works. I'm with the SWEET team. I'm your code enforcement for solid waste. We handle right-of-way violations. We don't handle anything on private property unless it has anything to do with dumpsters. I just have a couple of things to put out this evening. I have been getting, as the officer for NPU-Y, I have been getting a lot of cases as it relates to containers. My department likes to do our due diligence in making sure that education is in first, where we educate the residents or the homeowner. In some cases, most of the properties have been rentals, so they don't follow the rules a lot. So I have to make sure I get with the homeowner. To ensure that those renters are following those rules. Meaning sometimes I have to send out notices to the renter and the homeowner. Sometimes it's just a slow process. So if you have anyone that's your neighbors that are willing to listen, if you can just pass the word on for me, because it seems minor, but it is a violation. And it could also lead to you getting a citation. Secondly, my department is still on bi-weekly collection of yard trimming, this week being a non-collection week. I know I'm short of time, but this is the last thing. When submitting cases through 311, please ensure that you're putting in not your address for the violation address. Let them know the exact location in which the violation is at. Meaning, could you please give us a cross street with the street? But also, if you could, if it's a close by address, you could put that in there. But you can just let the representative know that is not the address, it's the violation. The address is across the street or behind this location. That will help my team out greatly. And we are continuing here to serve you every day. So if you have any additional questions or concerns, I'll stand by, and I also put my contact information in the chat.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from the general body for Officer Lawrence? Zane, you have the floor.
Hello. You said your department is over lawn trimming pickup? That's correct. Is that right?
So my division is actually, we do the education, but my department, Public Works, we are over the collection of your recycling, yard trimming, and garbage.
Okay. Well, I brought this up in the NPU-Y meeting. I'm sorry, the Lakewood neighborhood meeting.
Okay.
Last Monday, but my trimmies have been out there for about a month plus at this point, and I've sent in some requests through 311 and on the Instagram page for 311, and still no collection. So
okay. Can you do this for me, please? I'm gonna repost my information back in the chat. If you could send me an email and give me your address or your street in which you are having non-collection, and I'll pass it on to the route supervisor as well as the program, the deputy PO for solid waste, to make sure that we put this on the list so going forward it doesn't happen. But just for me the information, I'll pass it over to them for you.
Okay, you said you'll put your email in the chat.
Yes, I'll re-put it back in there again. I see it's disappeared now.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, no problem.
All right, are there any other questions for Officer Lawrence? All right, as I see none, thank you so much, Officer Lawrence, for all you do for us.
Thank you all. Have a good night.
You too. I now call Elise Adams. You have the floor.
Hello. So my name is Marjorie Lise Adams. I am the Special Assistant to Administration and Communication for Fulton County Commissioner Natalie Hall, and I'm attending this meeting and from here on NPU-Y meetings on her behalf. And let's see, she plans on attending the next one. And I have some, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Hope you're good to continue.
And so I have some information for you all. So there are televised Board of Commissioners meetings. So at the end of the way, I'll send all the flyers and all the links. I'll put it in the chat, and any info that you still need, I will also send out to the chair. So televised Board of Commissioner meetings are held on the first and third Wednesday of every month at the Fulton County Government Center starting at 10 a.m. and we invite you to join us. So to be able to speak to the public comment, which you present your concerns, questions to the Board of Commissioners, arrive by 9:45 a.m. and complete a speaker's card. And the next meeting is Wednesday, April 12th, let me see, at the Fulton County Government Center. And you can also watch the meetings live on YouTube and on the Fulton County Government website. And I'm going to put those links in the chat. And so Commissioner Hall has 2 upcoming events. This Friday, she has her Empowering Young Men to Excel Youth Conference, and it starts at 9 a.m. And it's a one-day experience for young men graduating from high school. It will include life-changing presentations and workshops promoting healthy lifestyles, marketable skills, and well-balanced relationships. Students will leave with tools to help them lead successful lives and careers beyond their graduation. And the experience includes, so there will be a keynote speaker, Atlanta City Councilmember Antonio Lewis, District 12, and a few more speakers. There's going to be interactive workshops, panel discussions, industry exhibitors, and it'll be at the Loudermilk Conference Center. So the students must register through the APS and Fulton County school system. And I have a flyer with some of that information. Let's see, the next thing is, sorry. So Fulton County has a health and human services app called Fulton Cares. It connects residents with services offered through Fulton County and its partners. Through the mobile app, citizens can connect with services and information from several Fulton County departments, including arts and culture, behavioral health and developmental disabilities, community development, environmental health, Fulton County Board of Health, Fulton County Library System, HIV services, public health, and senior services. And I have a direct link to the app as well.
Your time is exhausted. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
If you can please leave any of those links or the flyers in the chat, we would greatly appreciate it, and we can share that through our social media as well.
Yes, we'll do.
Are there any questions for Elise from the general body? All right, thank you, Elise, so much for joining us today. Next, I have Claudie Nash. Or is Claudie Nash on the phone still? All right, we will move on. Next up then is Jody Maraday. You have the floor.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, Madam Chair and NPU-Y. I'm Jody Maraday, the Ombudsman of Neighborhoods in the Executive Office. In my role, I serve communities by way of observing trends, making recommendations, and de-escalating issues as they emerge and trend across NPUs and neighborhood associations. I have a couple of announcements. First, the Citizens Police Academy is going to be March the 25th from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. It can be incredibly beneficial as you seek to approach public safety and have neighborhood-derived opportunities for thinking about public safety. So I invite all interested persons to that. The NPU University, of course, is always available for educational purposes as well as preparing communities for advocacy. The Year of the Youth has been declared. We are seeking to employ all of our youth this summer. You can go to atlyouthengage.com where there are opportunities for summer employment. The Diversion Center through the Policing Alternatives Diversion Unit will be opening. There will be a place and a space to de-escalate and address some of the concerns that are non-emergency in our neighborhoods. There are lifeguard opportunities, $15 an hour. Please encourage youth to apply. They only need to be 15 years old. They will be compensated and ensure that our parks are fully staffed with trained individuals to keep pools open. Lastly, through WorkSource Atlanta, you have operator school training. Doesn't matter your age. For any persons that you know that are looking to retool and reskill, they can go to the Halliburton Operator School Training, and it is funded. And those are my primary announcements. Again, I'm a resource to the community. If you have any questions, if there's any way that I can help you or your neighborhoods, please be in touch. My information is in the chat.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Is there one hand raised? For some reason, I can't see it on my side, but I see that there is a hand.
It's me. I think it's the brown hand. Hey, Miss Mer, it's me, no, Miss Meriday, thanks. One correction. I believe March 25th. What did you say is scheduled for March 25th?
Citizens Police Academy.
No, ma'am, it's the Neighborhood Watch Training. I think the Police Academy starts in May. The current class started, I think, last month, but I think March 25th is this Saturday. It is the Neighborhood Watch Training.
Correct. Yeah, it's at the Citizens Police Academy. So I should have added the additional detail that you're speaking of, if I'm not mistaken.
No,
Please do correct.
We have a flyer this evening. I think Inspector Thomas is on. It's at the, it will take place at police headquarters on Peachtree Street.
Okay, so hold on. Give me the information again.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
I received were different.
No, it's really good. But you know, there'll be a follow-up. I think Inspector Thomas is on with the flyer. It's this Saturday, the 25th, 9 to 1, but it's the Neighborhood Watch Training.
Neighborhood Watch Training. Yeah, they gave it to me as the Citizens Police Academy. So thank you. I'm gonna
absolutely
verbiages, Neighborhood Watch
Training. But the Citizens Police Academy is taking place concurrently at Metropolitan, but it's an 8-week course versus a 4-hour course.
Got you.
Very nice, very nice.
Could you please put your information in the chat? You're incredibly resourceful as I'm emerging in this body of work, and I would love the partnership.
Oh no, thank you. You did good. You did good. That was of all that. That was the only correction. You did good.
No, with humility, I need all of it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Do I have any other questions for Jody from the general body? All right, as I see none, thank you so much, Jody, for coming on and joining us.
Thank you so much. Okay.
Are there any other city officials that have not been called on?
I'm from Councilmember Lewis's office.
You are next up under our city elected officials. So you may have the floor, Mina.
Perfect. I'm going to go through this quick because I see that time is very important in NPU-Y. So one quick thing, I know Miss Gloria is going to be very happy. Today we approved legislation to do some flood relief work off of Lakewood. So we know when it rains, it floods. So there's going to be a relief project coming in Lakewood, and shovels will be hitting the ground late spring. Other than that, every single Monday at Roselle Fan, we have a program called Mothers Against Gang Violence. If your child or someone that you know, you want to come get some advice, have a safe space to talk every day, every Monday, 6 p.m. at Roselle Fan. All we say is no cameras, as we do not want to violate anybody's safe space, so that they can talk. If your child goes to Carver on March 30th, Councilmember Lewis, along with Chick-fil-A, Six Flags, Kroger, Old Navy will be, and more will be at Carver for all lunch periods, guaranteeing every single person of age a job. So if your child wants a job, come on down during their lunch period, tell them they can stop by. Interviews are on the spot. Other than that, I'm just going to open the floor up to any questions that if you may have. Also, if you have any speed bumps or lighting requests where lights have been out or need to be put out, please email me. My information's in the chat.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mina? Rebecca Robinson, you have the floor.
Thank you, Amina. I was just wondering, since you discussed drainage issues, is there any talk about doing anything on Claire?
I do not know of certain. I can check and let you know.
I'm not even sure where, I know the council district shifts around there, but
I'm pretty sure that's District 1.
okay, so yeah, it floods and then they have to close it off to vehicles coming by, so.
The dividing line from 12 and 1 is between our two houses, Rebecca. It's around where Olive Street is.
Okay, thanks. That's helpful.
So may I, but Rebecca's right. It is in District 12. That location where it floods is
Okay.
District.
Let me check up on it and email you about any information. What we were told is that Lakewood flooding relief project should take care of that area because it will be catching storm water that flows down due to the elevations.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Thank you. Jimmy, you have the floor.
Hey, Amina, you mentioned the speed bumps. It seems like I heard something saying that Meter Avenue was approved and is been put on for speed bumps.
Yes, it has been approved. We're just waiting on the weather to warm up so the cement can stick to the ground.
Sweet. Does that include William Nye as well as part of that?
I believe so, yes.
All right, good deal. Thanks so much.
All right. Are there any other questions for Mina and Officer Lewis, his office? All right, as I see none, thank you so much, Mina, for joining us today. Next, I have Cheryl Bennett with Jason Winston's office. You have the floor.
Good evening, everyone. I have just a couple of announcements that I'd like to make. One is that, Earth Day is in April. Please let us know if your neighborhoods are planning community cleanups, etc. I have had someone from Lakewood already contact me about those things, so I can connect you with Keep Atlanta Beautiful and let you know what we can provide and what other resources may be available for volunteers or whatever. So that is the 22nd of April. And then every neighborhood determines which part of that weekend you want to actually hold your events. I suggest that you reach out to Charm and arrange, if you know you have a number of tires and things of that, reach out to them, schedule an appointment with them to have your neighborhood tires dumped at that time, because they should be dumped for free just during that time. There's an amnesty period during the Earth Day, Earth Week. And that's the best time to unload those tires or things that we commonly would have to pay for. So that's one. And also just a couple of things about the council meeting today. The city council is now going into budget season. So you will be hearing from, it's a good time to tune in and stay on top of what you're hearing from individual departments, from the administration, what their needs are, maybe making sure that your needs are also being heard. You hear your public works might need more trucks or whatever so that they can, or more staff, so that they can get your yard waste picked up weekly. So, those kinds of things. Just kind of pay attention to the hearing so you can stay on top of the issues that are before the departments that they present to city council so that they can have those dollars or whatever approved for the budget. They also
Excuse me, your time is exhausted.
Okay, there you go. You'll miss out, but I'm not going to force the issue.
Cheryl, you are just fine to continue if you like.
Okay. Yeah, I won't take up more time than necessary. There has been approval of a more, of an MARTA audit for the more money dollars that we have contributing through our taxes. And the city has called for a complete audit. And so we should hear more about that. That'll let us know how those more money dollars are being spent in what areas and so forth, because the grass is always greener on somebody else's side. Doesn't matter how even it is, but it may be wise to pay attention to that. And finally, through Council Member Keisha Waits, she put forth a resolution today for a PSAs known as, and many of us, I might be dating myself, remember it's 11 o'clock. Do you know where your children are? So she has put forth a resolution for public service announcements, right, to go through, for one that says it's 9 o'clock. Do you know where your children are? And this will be for children 16 years of age and under. And this is just another way to make parents more accountable for their children and to pay attention to what's happening out there. As we all know, there is a rise, a huge rise in crime from youth. So that's my report for today. Anybody got any questions? Mr. McMurray. Paul?
Getting there. Okay, the District 12 seems to have some process to get speed humps. And since we're doing the budget, what is the process we should get for if we need sidewalks? Like, if you remember a couple of years ago, we went down Milton Avenue trying to get sidewalks there.
Right. And back then, Paul, you don't even, I know what you're talking about because you sent me an email. I'm sorry to cut you off, but I know the time is limited. So here's what happened. We walked along there, and one of the big things that came out of that is that we knew development was coming. The BeltLine's right there on Milton. And so what you're seeing happening, the further that they do construction along the BeltLine, what do you see? Sidewalks. So the city probably won't have funds. And I'm not going to say definitely not, because I hate to do that, but most likely would not allocate funds for sidewalks they know are going to come anyway, because the more that is developed along there, it is the responsibility of the developer to place those sidewalks in.
Well, most of the areas already has something on it, so I don't see that changing. But I'm getting back to the speed humps. The whole process of
I thought you were asking about sidewalks.
Well, I'm asking about both, because they're both public works type stuff, and it's sort of a mystery how some people get them approved, other people don't. So I just
let me clear up the mystery. Speed humps, there is a process. They do a study. You contact Public Works, you ask for a study for your street, A street between B and C. Please study this area for speed humps. They come out, they do a study within 60 to 90 days. That study is done, sometimes earlier. If it is approved, whoever is requesting it will get a letter that says your street was approved for speed humps. Here is a list of all the parcels and properties on your street. We need to have a signature from the property owner or landowner or that parcel that says that they also want speed humps. You get 70% of the people that own the properties on that street, send it back in, and that's how you get approved for your speed humps. Often it takes longer for some neighborhoods than others because some neighborhoods have more renters than property owners. Doesn't mean that they cannot get their landlords to sign, but it's an extra step for them. Some of them, if they are vacant lots, it may take a little longer for that to get taken care of. So it takes a little work. I have a street right behind me called the Naira that we sent the information out 2 years ago. And it's how much skin in the game does a person that lives on that street want to put in, to go door to door, get the signatures, and then get them back to the city. But that in effect is how it's done. If they change it one day, I'll let you know, but that is the process.
So for sidewalks, I would say that Milton Avenue, the part that I'm talking about, already has houses on it. And they still need sidewalks, so whenever they
That would be
develop.
that house.
Paul, I believe this is something that we should discuss at an individual basis, as that's specific to our community and not for the general body. Are there any other questions for Cheryl Bennett? All right, thank you so much, Cheryl Bennett, for coming and joining us and representing our District 1.
Yep, no problem. Have a good evening, y'all.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, my hand is raised. I believe COPS unit is on, and I promised her that you would get her up during the public safety component. Inspector Thomas from the APD COPS unit. She was the one to deal with the neighborhood watch, but she's been on.
Let me go ahead and get through one more elected official, and then we can go back to her. Jason Kemp, you have the floor.
Or is it Jordan Kemp? That's all right. But good evening, everybody. Jordan Kemp here on behalf of Doug Shipman's office, Atlanta City Council President. I'll be very quick. So tomorrow morning, 11:45, we are having a press conference. This is due in part to MARTA. I think Ms. Bennett had just mentioned earlier that Councilmember Overstreet today had introduced legislation for an audit of MARTA. And so there are some questions and concerns about some of the completion of some of the project lists that have been announced. So 11:45 tomorrow morning, there will be a press conference. I don't know. I think Channel 26 is going to be the majority one who's going to be covering that one, but that's just something that we wanted everyone to highlight and to be aware of. That Council President did have a lot of issues and concerns about the completion of some of these projects. But other than that, that is everything I had for you all. So very quick, and y'all have a good night. If you have any questions, please just let me know.
Any questions? All right, I see none. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Yes, sir. Miss Ma'am, apologize.
No problem. I will now call, is it Eshe Collins? Correct?
Hey, yes, it's Ishay.
Ishay, I apologize.
No, you're fine. You're fine. I just wanted to hop in. Katie and I, we're juggling meetings, but good evening, everyone. My name is Ishay Collins. For those who I have not had the chance to meet, I serve as chair for the Atlanta Board of Education and District 6 representative on the school board, and I share part of the Carver cluster with Katie Howard, who's your District 1 rep. I wanted to just give quick updates on a couple of things. I want to make sure that it's on your radar as it could potentially impact part of NPU-Y. So some of you guys, if you're following, if you're in the Chosewood neighborhood, the APS and our facilities department is doing its annual review, looking at capacities of our schools. And as you may be aware, there is this conversation or recommendation in regards to rezoning part of Chosewood into the Carver cluster. I want to make it very clear the board has not made any decision yet. That recommendation is not coming from the board. That recommendation is coming from the administration and facilities. And so we're gathering all community feedback on this recommendation and to see where the district decides to move towards, present it to the board with the feedback that has been garnered from the community. I am going to drop a link with the actual presentation in there. So if you haven't had a chance to look at it, you will see all the details on there, as well as the contact information through Let's Talk, where you can submit any feedback. So I wanted to make sure that it's on the radar, because part of the Chosewood community is part of the conversation in regards to the proposed boundaries. Katie and I have been very vocal about this recommendation, and particularly the zoning piece, as we making it very clear in regards to leaning in and continue to lean in on what the Carver cluster need to make it truly a cluster of choice. Because as you can imagine, as often redistricting conversations it becomes very tense, and it becomes a us versus them, a have versus have not conversation. So I want to make that very clear. And I also want to demystify any rumors out there in terms of the board pushing this recommendation. The second thing I want to make sure is on everyone's radar.
Your time is she okay to continue, Madam Chair?
Oh, okay, I can stop there.
Yeah, if you can just wrap it up, you have.
Yeah, no problem. The other thing I want to put on your radar is the board will retreat this Thursday all day in terms of facilities master planning. And as you may be aware, there were 16 properties that the board approved in January, Lakewood Elementary being one of those 16 properties as our first phase in the terms of what the district will decide to do with that vacant property. The board will resume that conversation on this Thursday in terms of the next steps on the administration side on what that potential disposal look like, which could be the board the administration keeping the property to repurpose it, potentially leasing it out, or moving forward with the sale. I will make sure that presentation, I will send that presentation to you all once it is posted. Typically, it'll be posted by Wednesday night, so that you can have it, and also with the link if you want to stream, follow us live, because the retreat will be aired live. And so I want to put those two main things on your radar, since it directly impacts this NPU, and I'll leave it there.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions from the general body? All right, as I see none, thank you. I appreciate it. And if you could put your information in the chat, I would.
You got it.
Having that.
Sure will.
Gloria, who is it that we need to call for public safety? I apologize. I don't have that name in front of me.
I'm sorry, she dropped off. She was from APD. She's one of the inspectors. I think she may have dropped off because she heard Miss Meriday give some of the, some insight to the training that's going to take place Saturday. But I also forwarded a flyer. If you will post a flyer, we looked at it at Lakewood on Monday, or I guess it was Monday. But it's again, she would have done an extraordinary job of encouraging and motivating folks to understand how an effective neighborhood watch program creates that third prong of policing, since APD is down a third of the officers. But the training is this Saturday. If you can, I forwarded a flyer. You can post that.
In the chat, there is a link to our monthly general body meeting folder. It has handouts and materials. There is a flyer in there for you, along with many others. I will go ahead and call to the floor Cynthia Cofield with code enforcement.
Good afternoon, everyone. Sorry for my lateness. I was actually trying to get in here and I had technical difficulties. Sorry, so sorry. Well, I'm here to report today about 1811 Lakewood Avenue. There were some junk tires. It took me a while to get in touch with the owners of 1811, which of course I could have looked in a past case, but I thought the actual ownership had changed. But it was in competition with 1819 Lakewood and 213 Claire Drive. They were all in a discombobulated uproar about whose tires those were. So they were actually dumped, and one of the nice members of NPU-Y actually reported and saw a dumping of the tires, but I was able to get in contact with 1811 Lakewood Avenue, and they will actually have the tires removed within 48 hours. That's one good thing. I was glad to see on 1962 Compton, he had started Mr. Mario Head. He's actually starting to do the house on 1962 Compton. He did a remarkable, I don't know if he's on here, but he's done a remarkable wonder with that particular house, whereas all the furniture and everything was kind of like out of the house, and it was just such a big deal for us to try to help and get everything done with that particular address. Any questions for me? Those are the only two things that I have at the moment. I'm working on some junk vehicles. You all have a lot of junk vehicles in you all area. I am currently involved in a lot of junk vehicle removement. So if you all are reporting, that's good. Fine and dandy. So thank you all for letting me speak so late. Sorry I had the technical difficulties. Oh, 276 Lakewood. I have not heard anything from our officer, and maybe I need to have her on here, Jocelyn Lyles. She can actually come on here and give you an update. I did send everything to her about, you all were asking about that particular location, but I would want her to come on here. I think I'll have her come on here next month and she can actually talk about the demolition of it. But thank you all so much.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Officer Cofield? All right, as I see none, thank you for joining us today.
All right, then you all have a great evening.
You too. So I believe we have now heard from all of our city officials and all of our city representatives. If you have not been able to speak, please put your information in the chat and I will call on you. Moving on to our committee reports. As you go through your committee reports, please keep your report to 2 minutes or less. I do ask the general body to hold your comments until after all committee reports have been completed. I call to the floor first the zoning committee, which is Bob and Jacob. Do I have either on the call today? All right, moving on to transportation and public works, Jeff Delp. Who is not on the call either. Parks and BeltLine and environment, Rebecca Robinson.
Hey, good evening. Just hoping to invite you all out to our session in South Bend Park this Sunday between 1:30 and 4. I'll be posting some information on Nextdoor about it. Hope you all come out and hope the weather cooperates. If you have any questions, let me know.
Thank you. Education Board. Monique Nunley.
Hello, everybody. How are you doing? I am here on behalf of the Education Committee. Really quickly, our committee, we came together on Monday and we voted to provide a resolution. And I need to, Nicole, explain to me, should we do it during voting matters around a resolution based on Chosewood? I know we discussed having Chosewood detail with us what they felt they wanted to share resolution with the APS board on their public comment.
We can do that during presentations. We can add that in because we didn't have that on the agenda.
Okay, so other than that, our committee decided we're going to have a Carver cluster volunteer directory, which I'm going to post in the chat. If you want to volunteer in our NPU-Y schools, which are Carver High School, Slater, and Price, those are in our footprint. We also have other schools in our footprint, but we've zoomed in and focused on the Carver cluster as a committee. Please, please, please fill out this form. If you work somewhere that gives volunteer paid time off, if you want to be involved in tutor, we've been talking to the principals and they're really open to our support and help. And they're looking to do tours. They're looking to showcase some of the things that they're doing at their school. They need career leaders. We just got a request to support Carver High School with their robotics team. So they are doing a lot of things. They moved from 1 AP course last year to 9 AP courses, and they're moving to create more career pathways at their schools. So I want to say that they are moving. We just became a STEM signature school cluster. And so that means they're going to need careers that align with STEM. So if you're in a STEM career, we'll need guest speakers and people to come into the space to kind of share what they do, or we go to you and bring students to you for an experience. So please take this survey. And other than that, that was our main topics to talk about volunteering. And then in the summer, we'll do what's called focus groups, and the principals want to be a part of that. And we'll be doing more of like vision setting. What do we want to see from our schools? What does success define for us as a community? So you'll hear more and get flyers about how do we define success, and bringing our partner schools with us along the journey as we also outline what we hope to see, not just as parents, but community members that have vested interest in the schools being successful in our cluster. So when we do need enrollment,
Your time is exhausted, sorry.
Thank you. Just wanted to add, when we do need enrollment, we'll have the stuff to back us up. And that's what we want for our schools, really high quality schools for all kids and our community. I'm going to post the rest in the chat. Thanks.
Yeah, appreciate it, Monique. Moving on to APAP.
Oh, no report other than the Why It Matters, the Why It Matters award that will take place likely in April. We have our nominee, our hardworking past president, Troy Nunley, Dr. Nunley. And it's one of the celebratory factors in APAB yearly. APAB essentially is an advisory group to city governance. And we've been having our trials, I will say. Many of the folks who morphed over to APAB did not succeed in their elections. So sometimes when folks are looking for something other than the work, it creates a little bit of chaos. But nonetheless, we're all a work in progress, the great celebration. We really look forward to honoring those of us who have worked so hard in NPU-Y.
Thank you so much. We'll move to our Special Project Ad Hoc Committee.
That's me, right?
That's you, Lyra.
Okay, perfect. Let me share. Let's see if you all can you all see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. So since our last NPU-Y meeting, the Community Impact Grant Committee, we met and we picked a date and a time, and we secured a location for our Unity Day. So it will take place on Sunday, August 20th from 2 to 6 p.m. at Ali at Lakewood, 1800 Jonesboro Road. We will send out invites via email and post the flyers on social media in the upcoming weeks. And then also once we get flyers actually printed out, we will distribute those as well. And then as far as the traffic light boxes, we will reach out to neighborhood leaders to identify high traffic light boxes in the upcoming weeks. So everyone, if you can, please join us on August 20th and put it on your calendar and your phone, as we would love to see everyone there.
Thank you so much. I will now open the floor to the general body for questions for all committees. Are there any questions? All right, I see no hands raised. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, Madam Chair.
Gloria, you have the floor.
Yeah, I thought we were going to supplement. I was piggybacking on Captain Pettis, but I thought we were going to supplement to some extent the public safety report. I just can be very brief. The hotspots 1660, 1634. Chevron looks like it has cleaned up substantially. The further in NPU-Y, the other hotspot is the villages at Carver. Augmented serious felonies. I think there was a homicide, and we also know there was a homicide last month at 1660. If you will also support me in addressing the fact that 1634 goes to the License Review Board tomorrow. We've been working very hard. We believe that the weight of the evidence is in favor of not granting 1634 license. The last time 1634 went before the board, I believe it was early 20. The board denied the license. Some say that it was the Mr. Kendall, who is was an advisor to the mayor, who appeared in Lakewood and asked that we reconsider. He went to the mayor and she signed over what the board normally the mayor will basically defer to the board in their findings because they're the evidentiary body that hears, but she did not. And again, it's that quid pro quo kind of what many of us feel. So tomorrow is a big day. Let's just give you a little recap. The most serious things at 1634 within the last 30 days, there was one snatch theft from the armored car. There was one snatch theft from the cash register in the building. There was one robbery of pedestrian in front of the building. There were on 113, there were narcotic sales in front of the building, 3 arrests, cocaine and marijuana recovered. That's 1634. 1660 has its similar issues. And when Major Ricker comes, I think he can elaborate more fully. I think we combine with the folks over in Gould Oak Knoll in a proactive effort, even with the, I think at some point we had vans, the paddy wagons that were staged just as a show of deterrence. But essentially, that's the essence of what I think are the highlights of what's happening in terms of public safety in NPU-Y.
Thank you, Gloria. And I apologize for skipping Public Safety Committee. Yolanda, you have your hand raised. You have the floor.
Yes, with the Lakewood Oversight Committee. So I wanted to just give that report too. So we had our meeting March 8th. a week and a half ago, and Akeisha Branch, the general manager for Lakewood Amphitheater, attended, and she reported that currently there are 11 concerts for this season, which is half the number of last season, and it's just due to the timing and scheduling of the concerts. The first concert date is Sunday, May 28th. That's a sold out Dead and Company concert. So there'll be like large crowds, lots of traffic. So just be on the lookout for that. And there were talks about us having a possible community day at the amphitheater, but we'll get into more details as I get them. I'll share.
Thank you. Are there any questions? All right, as I see none, we will move forward. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate all of our committees and all the hard work you do to support the NPU. We are now moving to voting matters. Let me go ahead and share my screen again for you guys so you can see the presentation or the agenda. This is a ZRB, and it is in, I believe, South Atlanta is B23-23. Do we have anybody on the call for this? Is there a representative for 58 Martin Avenue Street on the call? All right, I see that they do not have a representative on.
Can you hear me? I'm sorry.
Yes, I can now, thank you.
Matt Keller here. I'm the owner, but my representative is Gail Mooney. I saw she was on the call a few moments ago. Double checking. I'm just the owner licensed contractor, but she's really my representative handling this. Let me see if she got dropped off or something.
I am here. Thank you so much. Hey, everybody. All right. Sorry about that. Let me move this back over to my main screen. All right. So thank you, everybody. My name is Gail Mooney. My address is 660 Lake Drive, Snellville, 30039, and I am working with Mr. Matt Keller on his variance for setbacks for this particular property. Let me just pull this up to give you an idea of the variances that we are requesting. And I know that he has already met with the neighborhood association. And I believe they gave him they voted to approve his project. So 1 minute, I will have all this pulled up. Okay, yes, all right. So I am here and we are asking for a reduction in the west setbacks, east and west setbacks from 7 feet to 5 feet, and the south setback from 35 feet to 20 feet to allow for the construction of a single family house. And I think you all probably, do I need to share my screen with a copy of the application?
If you have something to share in order to actually show the general body, it's very hard for our neighborhood residents to be able to know every single house in all of NPU.
Got you.
So if you're able to put it
Yeah.
on the screen,
Let
please.
me just make sure I have the entire variance pulled up. And I just want to make sure I have, yes. Okay, so I am going to share my screen and I am going to share screen number, which one am I going to share?
You are already sharing a screen. It believes it's your whole desktop.
Yeah, I believe it's the other I want to share. Let me slide this over. See if I can get the appropriate, so let me stop sharing and then let me hit share screen again. And yes, okay, here it is. All right, so sharing screen. Okay, so I will zoom in on this particular site. And as you can see, it's a bit of an unusual configuration. And the lot is very narrow and would not really accommodate a standard house without some form of variance. And so we are requesting to reduce the side setbacks from 7 to 5, and then the rear, let me see which one that is, and the front to 20. And so the proposed house will be here, and the front of the house is here. And let me see if I can get a let me see. Does anybody have any questions so far?
Before there are any questions, please finish your presentation.
Oh, got you. That's right. Yep. Yes, ma'am. I forget that there are different rules and regulations to the different ones that we do.
Is there a time limit on this presentation?
Yes, they are. I believe it's 3 minutes for these.
Okay, well, yeah, we're done with that then.
We're done. We're
I
done with my
wasn't sure if
time?
it was 5 minutes.
Oh, if I talk more than 5 minutes, oh, well. Okay.
So, I will call before the neighborhood of South Atlanta Civic League. Devon Dixon.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
So this was, I don't want to call it contentious, but we went back and forth with it. In the neighborhood, the group actually passed with a vote of, I believe it was 3-2-2. One of those yay votes was actually an ineligible voter, so we were completely tied. I actually abstained because I've reached out to or worked with Gail in the past, so I didn't vote on the matter. Our biggest concern was the size of the home compared to the lot. I think it was a 1,800 square foot home. And I think without any variances, something along the lines of 1,200, 1,300 square foot would fit with the theme of the other homes there, not necessarily the new constructions that are being thrown up with the same dimensions, but yeah, so that's where we were. So we'll defer to the NPU to get your approval instead of kicking them back to the neighborhood level to see where it goes.
Okay, thank you, Devon. I will open the floor to discussion and questions for the applicant. Gloria, you have the floor.
Did I understand Devon to say that it was approved at South Atlanta level?
So I was actually at the meeting, and so they did have an approval vote of 3-2. However, just as we do our voting, they do have to check eligibility, and they were able to find out after the meeting closed that one of the yes votes were ineligible, which made it a tie vote at the end. So however, South Atlanta Civic League is going to allow it to move forward through the NPU to vote here versus bringing them back to the neighborhood for another vote.
Can you explain what the pushback was from those who were against it?
It was basically the size of the home. It was an 1,800 square foot home. They're asking for a variance, both front setback as well as side, to maximize the footprint of the home itself. I thought within the existing footprint, without a variance, or maybe adjusting in just one direction or the other, you may be able to get something smaller on that lot. And we know price per square foot is what's going to dictate the price of home. We're driving affordability, affordable homes all the time. The bigger the house, the more expensive it's going to be.
Thank you. Ms. Gill, may you put the display of the property back on the screen for everybody to see while we do our discussion?
Yes, would you, what I'd like to do is I've got a better view of the proposed house because the site plan didn't really show the proposed house as much as I would have wanted it to.
Okay,
And let
if you
me,
can get that up and I will call on the next question. While you're
yes.
doing that. Thank you. Christopher McCord, you have the floor.
Yes,
Okay.
President, South Carolina Civic League, did we have any individual on Martin at all put eyes to this particular project? I know in the past, there've been 2 houses on Martin that kind of got past those individuals, and there was some moments where they were very upset in reference to that, and the fact that we didn't alert them of a size of a house this significant. So my question is, has anyone on Martin Avenue actually seen this project or proposal?
Yes, that's sort of where some of the pushback is. When we say 1,800 square feet, that's not a huge house, but it is one of the bigger size houses in our neighborhood. I think towards the upper end, we're 2,000 square feet. Lower end, we're anywhere 900 square feet. And this is a tiny lot that we're putting one of the bigger homes in the neighborhood on. So it's hard for people to see square footage and actually visualize it. But yes, we've had complaints about Martin, some of the new constructions. And I believe, I think his name was Matt, actually referenced some of the new constructions on the street, which some of the residents weren't very favorable of. So it's just one of those things. Yes, we want progress. Yes, we want development, but we don't necessarily want it to just be jammed in there.
Okay, thank you. Christopher, do you have any other questions?
Yeah, and I think looking at where it is, that's a pretty tight part of Martin as well, especially when it relates to parking. Is there a driveway for this particular project, 58?
The project did have a
Yes.
driveway. It was
Yes.
located near the end of Martin, right where it turns from Marcy. So yes, to your point, it is pretty tight coming around that corner. I think
Yeah.
if you go down there any particular time of day, you'll see limited parking.
Devon, I believe the question is for Gail, the applicant.
Yes, there is parking, and in this jurisdiction, you must provide at least one off-street parking space, and that has been provided for. And we can do that in front of the setbacks, so that was not an issue from a variance standpoint.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Or would somebody like to solicit a motion? Rebecca, you have the floor.
I was just gonna point out that if a vote requires a majority and it's tied, it technically fails according to Robert's Rules of Order. So if that has any bearing on the way people want to vote. But I will also motion to approve.
Do I have a second? It seems I do not have a second for a motion to approve.
I'll second Heather.
Okay, so we do have a motion on the floor to approve the application. I am going to throw up the poll for you. So our voting requirements. You must be 18 or older. You also must be a resident or a business owner within the community. So please make sure that you are following our voting requirements as you vote. Your eligibility would be 3 meetings in the last 12 months. This meeting may be your 3rd meeting to allow as an eligibility. If you have more than one person on your call, you may put their vote in the chat. All right, so I'll give it 10 more seconds. All right, I am closing the poll. So I have 8 yeses. How many do I have in the chat here? All right, so our final total is 9 yeses, 5 noes, and 6 abstentions. The motion carries. I'm sorry, Troy. All right, so the motion carries.
All right, wonderful. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. Gloria, you have the floor.
Yes, ma'am. I just wanted to say to the folks in Lakewood as a point of reference, Matt is the architect, designer, and builder of the little white house on Shadydale, the very tiny house that stands there at the corner of Shadydale and Claire.
Yes.
All right, thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
We appreciate you coming to our meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have old business, which we do not have any of. So we move on to new business, and this is the ratification of Heather Graybill for the BeltLine TADAC. Heather, would you like to speak to this?
Sure. Hey guys, for those of you that I don't know, my name is Heather Graybill. I've lived in the neighborhood for a handful of years, have lived in Atlanta since graduating college, grew up right outside the city. But this is my second year serving on NPU exec team. I also sit on the Lakewood executive team. So yeah, happy to help drive some changes, hopefully for our communities in the BeltLine.
Thank you so much. So we will move to allow any questions or anything from the general body, or if you'd like to solicit a motion to vote on this. Troy Nunley.
Motion to approve.
Second, Kelly Jean.
All right, let me just launch the poll here. Motion is to approve for BeltLine TADAC. All right, the poll is open.
Nicole, you're sharing your screen. Not sure if you know that or if it's.
Thank you. Right. Couple more seconds here. All right, I'm closing the polls. So I believe I have one more yes in the chat, which would make that 16 yes, 0 no, and 3 abstentions. So the motion carries. Congratulations, Heather. We will push that nomination forward to BeltLine TADAC.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
would you parse that acronym so that folks know what TADAC is that we're approving?
Absolutely. So TADAC is the Tax Allocation District Advisory Committee. As our community has different districts, mostly centered around the BeltLine, where taxes are allocated to help improve the community and development. Right, moving to our next agenda item is our 2023 Community Design Award and nominations. I know that we discussed this in prior meeting. However, there were no design awards that were presented from the community of NPU-Y. The city of Atlanta has decided that there were not enough nominations from all NPUs in the city. And so they have asked if NPUs would like to reissue any nominations. And they have also extended the deadline because of this. So the Community Design Award nomination is a community design that recognizes the buildings, places, events, arts, people, organizations, and how it affects the community, how they uplift the community, how they reach out to them their residents within the neighborhood. So there's a very vast dynamic to it. It allows for a lot of nomination options. So we do have a nomination already on the floor for Nourish Britannica, and that's for the revitalization on building the community engagement that they have done there. I would like to open the floor for any nominations or questions about this. Gloria, you have the floor.
Yes, ma'am, Madam Chair. If you will read I guess it's the first segment of that description of what the criterion for this award. I don't see it there currently on the screen. But I received two nominations. I received personally 2 nominations, in part because this award comes through DCP, Department of City Planning, but primarily one of those that is engaged through the Atlanta Planning and Advisory Board. And one of the nominations came from this very first sentence. The Community Design Awards are a way for the NPU to recognize buildings, public spaces, events, arts, organizations, etc. So the first nomination that came was for the McDonough Bridge, and the proponent of it was pretty adamant about how it had changed the quality of the life of the 3 or 4 contiguous neighborhoods. And in addition to that, there was also a nomination for our zoning co-chair, Jacob Mills. And the major accomplishments, amongst other things that are going on in Chosewood, which we know has been inundated with 7,000 multi-residential buildings or constructions in a traditionally 350 R4 community, which is changing the dynamics of that community. But again, for Jacob, many of the accolades were rooted in his presence in the community, his extensive work in bringing in people like council people in helping bring attention to the area. Winston, who else? There were a couple others that were instrumental that I wasn't familiar with. He also has helped the developers in developing, in dealing with stormwater drain off, which based on these 7,000 residents converging on that area, runoff and infrastructure apparently is a huge problem. And lastly, that he's negotiated $400,000 in development of the Chosewood Bridge, which is in the up and coming award-winning Chosewood Park community. So those are the 2 that came in individually that I am putting forth as nominees.
Gloria, can you repeat the first nomination?
The first nomination was the McDonough Street Bridge, which recently opened after, I think, a 4 or 5 year closure. And the statement of the nominee was how it had connected 4 contiguous neighborhoods, and that we were no longer relegated to having to wait at the train tracks. We had the alternative. So their position was of the public spaces that had really made a significant impact in NPU-Y, it was the bridge.
Thank you. So we have 3 nominations on the floor. That is Nourish Britannica, the McDonough Bridge, and Jacob Mills. Are there any other nominations or questions, comments about the award?
There is a question in the chat, Madam Chair. I think I could answer because I checked with DCP in having the same question. If you see the question in the chat.
Yes, nominating the bridge would technically be nominating, it's actually would not be Atlanta DOT though, it would be Georgia DOT, which as we know, Georgia DOT is a little harder to get a hold of than ATL.
But again, I checked with DCP, and DCP's response was that it is I think the way I forwarded it to you, what Leah had to say, that it is a very low bar, and that any building or public space, not necessarily attributable to the city, any public space that significantly improved the quality of the residents. I addressed that question because it was a similar question that I had as to whether it met the criterion as outlined in this design.
Yes, and it was approved as one that could be nominated.
Yes.
Well, if there are, Rebecca, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, I was just trying to clarify, is it a particular space that Jacob helped to develop? Or could you actually nominate a person for this award?
My understanding, if you'll go ahead and point out what you think is relevant, Nicole, I'll give her what I was given as the bullets for his representation. If you'll point out in the criterion why an individual is relevant, I will give her the criterion.
Yeah, so
Never mind. I reread it. I see it now. My bad.
that's okay. Yeah. In the past, they have done individuals, organizations. So this award is very broad to the community. It really allows you to nominate almost anything within your district.
That's true.
All right. Well, I will solicit for a motion.
Motion to vote on the 3 nominees on the floor. Rebecca.
All right, Rebecca, any a second?
Gloria, second.
Okay, let me go ahead and launch the poll. All right, the poll is open. Paul, I see that you're put your for Nourish in the chat. If you could please use the poll to vote.
What did you say?
If you can please use the poll to vote
Yeah, I did.
versus the chat. Perfect. Thank you.
That was just an opinion I was giving.
Okay. Appreciate it.
It was not my vote.
All right, we'll leave the vote open for 10 more seconds. All right, closing the vote. So we have 1 in the chat, so it is 13 for Nourish Botanica, 2 for Jacob, and 3 for the McDonald Bridge. So Nourish Botanica will be our nomination for the vote. All right, moving on to our announcements. Are there any announcements for the general body? All right, as I see none, we will move on to our planners report. Elizabeth, yes, you have the floor.
Yes, good evening. And you guys actually acted on the one thing that I was going to insist that you act upon, which was the nomination for the design awards. So you actually have already done that. So I don't have any other announcements, but if anybody has questions.
I'm sorry, I hate to cut you off. Monique did have one to push through for us to vote on. I forgot that we were not able to put this on the agenda. So we do need to discuss this. Monique, would you like to speak on what we are voting on?
Yes, thank you so much. Sorry, y'all. At our education committee meeting, we held a vote to get a resolution created that it speaks as the public comment from the NPU. So at this point, all the PTAs have come forth, PTA boards and different organizations have come out with a public comment from the organization to express their public comment. You can also do it as an individual, as board member Collins shared. So please do that as well as individuals. But for the NPU as a whole, we would need a resolution to come from us about our actual perspective on the scenarios. If you're not familiar with the scenarios, Nicole, did she post a link with the scenarios in it? I can post.
She did. I'm just trying to pull the chat up there.
Okay.
Share your screen with it?
Yeah, so if what'd you say?
Are you able to share it?
Yeah, let me go get it. But and so what she shared, as we're trying to find the link for the scenarios, there are 2 scenarios. One is where they do a more formal audit of their school, and just try to check the school and the surrounding communities to make sure that no one's in the schools that aren't supposed to be in the schools. So that's scenario 1. And that doesn't require zoning changes. Scenario 2 will require zoning changes. that would actually move some students from the Chosewood neighborhood into the Carver cluster schools and away from Benteen, which is the Jackson cluster schools, as well as some other changes from the Peoplestown community, and the BAMO school would also be impacted by some of these changes. And so the NPU-Y related ones would require Chosewood students or children to be rezoned into the Carver cluster. And so what we're trying to do is share a formal resolution from our NPU to the school board as they make this decision and have more conversations over the next 2 weeks, because they're going to share out what they came up with after spring break. So we want to get information to them before they leave for spring break. That's our goal. I'm going to find the scenario link for you guys so you guys can look at it for yourself. But we went to Chosewood's meeting, the neighborhood, and asked them what their perspective was first. As an education committee, we went to them, and then they voted, and their vote, and I'll defer to Jacob, but their vote, I believe, was scenario 1, and to just do a formal audit before we make any rezoning decisions. And so today I want to make sure we can get some type of formal letter, that's the request, to reflect that. So that's what I need, I guess, a motion. And let me go find this link for y'all. Give me 1 second.
I find it on their site as well.
You found it?
No, I'm trying to pull it up still.
Okay, I got you. No worries.
Thank you. So yes, Chosewood Park, since Jacob, I believe he's stuck in another meeting right now. So we did last minute go ahead and vote on this to do option 1, scenario 1, which is to kind of review any other options outside of rezoning. As redistricting schools, most of our community members have said that they do not want to do that. Let me put together a vote for us, since we will be voting on this today. Are there any questions for Monique, or I don't know if we have anybody still on from APS?
And I just posted the link, and there's a whole website dedicated to this. So I'm going to give you the annual review APS link. But please, if you are a parent, you can always do the app and share more on their Let's Talk app. So that's where they're taking formal public comment on the Let's Talk app. It is an actual app that you download and you enter your public comment, but you can also send an email directly to Katie Howard and express your concerns directly to her, and they're compiling that information as well. But the Let's Talk app is where it'll be aggregate, is what they're telling us. So yes. Oh, Troy.
Thank you, Monique. Troy Nunley, you may have the floor.
I was going to submit the motion. Motion to follow Chosewood's advice to use option 1 instead of option 2 of rezoning to the Carver cluster. So it's a motion to approve what Chosewood said, to use option 1. To create a resolution for option 1.
Second, Rebecca.
All right, we have a motion on the floor to solicit for support for option 1, which is to not rezone the Jackson and Carver cluster schools.
Should I share my screen since I have it up now, or are you okay?
Yes, you can share your screen so you can see that.
Did you second it?
Yes, it was already seconded. We're open to questions now. Gloria, you have your hand raised. Gloria, you are muted.
Why again? I hadn't followed it closely. Why is option 1 the best of the choices again?
So option 1 gives opportunity for the school to revisit how their platform is laid out, how they could add structures to the existing schools that would allow for the students to stay where they are. The different school districts actually have different plans because of purpose-built schools not being an actual APS system. They are separate when it comes to their education. So a lot of parents and residents in the communities that are in the Jackson cluster have expressed that they would like to stay in the Jackson cluster.
And they have different, am I on mute? And they have different, so they have different programming. And this is a really big thing for our schools, is that they've created these signature programs to be kind of a focus area for the cluster. So we are STEM focused, as I said earlier, and Jackson is a interbaccalaureate focus, which is like global world languages. So those are very different things that cater to different families. And so families are looking to that programming, and they're investing in their homes and in their communities based on the programming that they signed up for. So if you switch their child out of that programming that they invested in, then now they don't have continuity of programming and curriculum, because we don't offer the international program, the international baccalaureate program that is recognized all over the world, right? Our cluster of schools don't offer that programming. So families who've tied themselves to that model will not have continuity at the elementary, middle, or high school level anymore. And so they've been working on that model for some years now, and it would yank them out of that model, especially even the DLI, which is the language immersion program, dual language immersion program that really only Benteen has for real. And so in the whole district. And so it's a unique program and focus and target that these families have invested in. And it would be moving them out of that instead of doing the work that's needed in our cluster, which we have families in our cluster that aren't going to our neighborhood schools. We just need to figure out what programming they want to see to bring them back to their neighborhood school. So the reason that I believe option 1 was chosen is because it's the common sense answer right now, which is do internal reviews of things first and really revisit space before you uproot little children. And that just makes common sense to just do the internal work first before we do a really large uproot experience starting in 2024. So I believe that's why that option was chosen, but I'm here to listen to see if there are other options, but we just want to have a collective voice when we share with the board.
And is this, Nicole, is this based on the fact that the Jackson cluster is reached capacity and the Carver cluster is still under capacity? Is that what it?
Yes. So the primary is because of Jackson High School. They are about 89%, I believe is what they presented, and expected to be over 100% in the next 2 years. So they are trying to do some redistricting to relieve that, since many of our schools only lead into one high school. Troy Nunley, I yield the floor.
Yeah, so essentially, so I attended the public meeting with APS, and essentially the discord was that a lot of the families, first, they don't have once you're district, if you were, I think, above 5th grade, then you essentially have to move over to the other school. So there's no transitionary period for students to be able to transition into a cluster that is, as Monique mentioned, is completely different from a academia standpoint, because one is STEM, one is more language focused. And then the second piece is that it's, in some cases, is dividing some of the neighborhoods. So for example, in Peoplestown, which BAMO, the Barack and Michelle Obama Academy, they was built almost specifically for Peoplestown, but yet there was splitting it into between the neighborhood to go to the Carver cluster. And the last piece is about 75 families. That's, if they were to do this, it's about 75 families that will migrate into the Carver cluster, which of course it will be still underutilized. But the likelihood of all 75 families actually moving into the Carver cluster and not just going into a charter school is probably high, because as we've seen in historically with the Carver cluster so far, a lot of the families that's there that lives here are not going into the Carver cluster. So that was kind of the sentiment of the APS meeting, that almost all of the people that was there was against it. from PTSAs to neighborhood associations. I guess option 2.
Thank you, Trey. Paul, you may have the floor. Paul McMurray, you may have the
Yeah.
floor.
One of those options that when you vote for one, they're going to look at is how many people are out of attendance going to the Carver, the Jackson cluster. There's an example that's given, like, for instance, Westlake High School had 350 people going there out of the attendance area. So it's not unlikely that we have a huge number of out of attendance people going to the Jackson cluster. Second point is Benteen has a dual language program. A lot of people are very supportive of that. And plus we have a higher Hispanic population that feeds that program. And if you take them and move them into the Carver cluster, it diminishes the dual language program, which we have really grown to accept. Plus, people in Chosewood Park have gone to Benteen for 50 to 60 years. So it'd be quite a shock to go anyplace else.
Thank you, Paul. Yield the floor to Gloria.
Last question. Paul just raised the point. Has there been a determination of how many of the students in the Jackson cluster are out of zone? Has there been that? Has that question been raised, and has there been an answer to it?
So I actually was at the meeting as well. I went to the in-person meeting, and that was it was brought up, but was not able to be completely clarified. They have not done an audit in many years, so they don't have an exact number for you. And so it's hard to know exactly how many children live in a community that aren't going to a school there. I do want to say, though, that they did mention that Chosewood Park would be one of the schools that would be one of the neighborhoods that would be moving in. And there's, I believe it's like 45 kids that are moving, and that would be it.
But it seems unreasonable if that's an issue, that you're at capacity and let's say 25% are out of zone. That would put a stop on having to transfer anyone, wouldn't it? Doesn't it? It seems like it's unreasonable that question, that they're saying we don't have the data when they should, right?
Yeah, and I wanted to say, like, that's what has been constantly coming up in the virtual calls, on the in-person calls, is this should have just been a normal course of doing business as a public school district, is to do this review and not ask the public, should we do the review? And so what we're trying to do today is just establish a formal collective response that just asserts this perspective, if that's what the body so chooses. And again, this does not preclude anyone from actually sharing your comments. And as you can see here, it says use the Let's Talk app as the thing to do to share your feedback, but you can always just email your board member or send me it and I'll do it for you. Just let me know your information. But if you want to list or share individual comments, that's important as well. But right now what's on the floor is for us to collectively share our perspective. So the options on the table is for us to share that we support option 1 or we support option 2 as an NPU body at this time.
Thank you, Monique. So before we go to this vote, I do want to speak that part of the concern that has been brought up about option 1 and option 2 is that option 1 is very vague and leaves open to the fact that there has been little research into how they would address option 1, scenario 1, versus option 2. It seems that the Board of Education, or APS it is, has pushed for rezoning. This is not the first time that they've pushed it, and the community has given pushback, as the communities that were being sought to be rezoned did not wish this. So we do want to put the pressure on Atlanta Public Schools to do their due diligence and to give full solutions and full scenarios to the communities. So I will go ahead and move for a vote now, unless we have any other questions. and comments? All right, as I see none, I will go ahead and launch the poll.
One question.
Yes, Brendan, you have the floor.
Yeah, just real quick, to vote, this would be my first NPU meeting in a while. Would I need to still satisfy that 3 meetings, or I do have a child that is in APS that does go to Jackson High, and I am a Chosewood resident. So I feel very inclined to vote on this matter. So would I have to fulfill that 3 limit or what?
Yes, for any vote that goes through NPU-Y outside of our bylaws, you do have to meet a 3 attendance minimum in the last 12 months. So if you have not met that, I do strongly suggest that you make a public comment through the APS website or attend one
Sure
of
will.
your meetings.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I will go ahead and launch the poll. Again, the motion on the floor is to support Chosewood Park in scenario 1. As Chosewood Park is one of the communities that will be rezoned. Again, scenario 1 is to not rezone and to explore other options that would be able to enhance the school's issues of attendance. Leave it open for 10 more seconds. All right, I am closing the poll. All right, I do not see any votes in the chat. So the poll is 13 yes, 1 no, and 1 abstention. Motion carries to support the community in scenario 1 as a resolution for APS facility master plan. All right, now that we have finished our last piece of agenda, I will hand it back over to our planners, Elizabeth Clappin.
Thank you. As I said before, I don't have any new announcements. You guys did already act on the Community Design Award nominations, so thank you for doing that. That was the one thing I wanted to bring up today. I already posted my information in the chat. Anybody who has any questions between now and the next meeting can, of course, feel free to reach out. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Appreciate it. All right, we will go ahead and adjourn the meeting. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn. Rebecca.
Second.
Do I have any abstentions? All right, meeting adjourned. Thank you all for coming. You have a great evening.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Take the survey, volunteer. Take the
Thank you.
Yolanda, I sent you a text. Did you get it?
Oh, wait a minute.